Welcome to Amy Learns to Cook. On the show today, we're going to make my chicken and green chili stew. Now it snowed last night and it is bitter cold, and we need something nice and warm and hearty for lunch. So join me as we make my chicken and green chili stew. What we have is one very large Spanish onion that I diced. I have 2 cans of fire roasted chilies, preferably if you can get hatch chilies, that would be the best. I have 1 finely diced jalapeno. You can use anywhere from 1 to 4 depending on your level of heat, right? And I have 6 cloves of chopped garlic. I love garlic, so I put a lot of it in there. So the next thing we're going to chop is some tomatillos. And tomatillos are kind of little interesting things. They look kind of like tomatoes, but when you buy them, they have this little husk on them. So you just take this husk off and give them a quick wash. They have kind of a stickiness to them. We're going to wash these up, and then we will give them a chop. Okay, so our tomatillos, we took the husk off, and now I washed them, and now we're just going to chop them. And I have 5 tomatillos that we're just going to chop. We're going to cut them into a couple of slices here, and then we're going to give it a sort of a medium dice. Tomatillos are so delicious. They remind me of a green tomato, but that's not quite what they are. They're their own little fruit. They're delicious in a lot of different dishes. Okay, so now we're ready to start cooking our stew. Okay, so we are going to cook our stew on an induction burner. And what an induction burner is it's sort of magnetic. So when the induction burner is on full heat, you can actually put your hand on here and it's barely even warm. What it does is it works through the pan and heats the metal, so only the pan gets hot. And I really like to use this because I can take it outside, I can take it in my RV. I just have a really good time with it. So we're going to go ahead and put our pot on here. And you have to have a pot that's induction ready. And a lot of times an induction cooker comes with a magnet. And if it sticks on there, that means it's induction ready. This pot is an all-clad. It just happens to say on the bottom that it's induction ready. So it's all ready to go for us, right? So we're going to go ahead and turn this on. And it has like a little blower. It sounds like a blower. And it exhausts some air. So make sure you don't plug any of the holes because you don't want it to overheat. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put in some olive oil, a couple tablespoons of olive oil. And this thing heats pretty fast. So we're just going to let that olive oil heat up. Okay, so this thing heats up really fast. This pot got it up to temp in less than a minute, right? So we're going to go ahead and put our onions in here. And we're going to saute our onions until they're translucent. Okay, so our onions are translucent. We're going to go ahead and put in our tomatillos, and we're just going to cook this for about 2 minutes. Okay, so we're going to put our jalapeno in here, and we're going to cook this for a minute or 2. Okay, so we're going to add our garlic, and we're just going to let this cook for about a minute or so. Okay, it's smelling really good and it's time to add our seasoning. I want to add them at this point because we're going to saute the seasonings a little bit and let them bloom. so all their fragrance comes out of there. So we are going to use 2 tablespoons of chili powder, and this chili powder is really great. I grind this chili powder myself. If you're interested in how I do that, I have a video upload of how to make chili powder. I'll put a link down below in the description box. So we're going to do 2 tablespoons of freshly ground chili powder. We're going to do 2 tablespoons of cumin. Make sure you have a nice fresh cumin. You might want to buy cumin seeds and just grind them yourself. That's the best way. We're going to do 2 teaspoons of chipotle powder. It's getting good. And we're going to do 2 teaspoons of Mexican oregano. And there's a lot of different oreganos out there. Just make sure you get Mexican oregano. And we're going to go ahead and stir this up. And we're going to do what they call bloom the spices. And that's just to heat them up for a minute or 2. It brings out all the flavor, gets them coated on your vegetables here so that they're ready for our chicken broth. Okay, next we're going to add our 2 7-ounce cans of fire roasted green chilies. I love fire roasted green chilies. That's like, I can eat them on everything, right? Wow, it smells really good. Okay, so we're going to put in 7 cups of chicken stock, and I make this out of a chicken base. I really like the flavor of it. We're going to put in a lot because this is a little different from just a chili. It's more of a stew. I kind of wanted it to have more liquid because it's cold outside, and so I want something that's sort of a combination of a chili and a soup, right? So we're going to go ahead and give that a stir. Wow, it smells really good. Okay, so our stew is simmering. About halfway through the cooking, we're going to start adjusting the seasonings. We just want to get it started. You don't want to put salt in at this point because you want to adjust for salt near the end. Otherwise, as it cooks down, it's going to be way too salty. So even if it might taste a little bland, we're going to add a little bit more seasonings halfway through, and then we're going to adjust for salt at the end. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put some cooked chicken in here. And this chicken is just a rotisserie chicken from my local club store. That's one thing that makes this recipe so easy. You can cook a chicken on the barbecue if you want it smoky. You can cook it beer can style, or you can roast it in the oven. It doesn't really matter, or you can do what I did, because these rotisserie chickens are so good and they are so flavorful that I just get one of these and put this in here. So I put probably 4 cups of chicken in there. Wow, it's looking really good. We're also going to put a couple cans of pinto beans. I opened the cans, I rinsed the beans, and we have them here. So we're going to go ahead and put in the pinto beans. And we're going to stir that in. And we're just going to let this cook. This is going to take about probably 2 hours. So after about an hour of it cooking, we're going to come check on it, adjust the seasonings again, and then we're going to continue to let it cook. It's going to reduce down until we get that level of thickening that we want. We don't want it really thick like a chili because I want a little broth in it, because I have a little cold going on, so I need that soothingness for my throat, right? So we're going to make this in a stew. We're not going to cook it all the way down, but we're going to leave it a little bit loose so we can have some broth. Our chicken and green chili stew is done. I've let this cook quite a while because I was off doing some housework, so it cooked for about 2.5 hours. You're going to have to adjust the seasoning because it really depends on how salty your chicken broth is, how much you put in terms of cumin and chili powder. I just put in a little bit of extra of my Better Than Bouillon chicken base. It'll bring a salty layer to it, and I wanted a little more chicken flavor. So I just added another tablespoon of that, and I really didn't have to adjust for any other seasoning. So let's go ahead and serve up a little bowl of our chicken green chili stew. Wow, it looks really good. It still has some liquid to it, so it's sort of like a soup. It's not a chili. It just looks really, really fabulous. Okay, so let's try this. It smells really good. It's hot. Wow. You can really taste the green chilies. It's a little spicy from the jalapeno, but not too bad. You can add a lot more jalapeno if you want it spicier. It's actually just perfect for me. It is so flavorful with that homemade chili powder. There's not like one flavor that just overtakes it. It's a really balanced flavor. Would be great to even use this with tacos. Even eat it over rice, like beans and rice. It's really, really good. If you like this recipe, please subscribe below and visit my website at amylearnstocook.com. I'm also on Twitter and Pinterest at Amy Learns to Cook.